That's nice, man. What'd you get? Hey, man, what'd you get? What kind of rod did you get? Yeah, I'm trying to look at something here because I gotta do like a dual screen right now because and see if this will work. Experiment. Let's see if this will work. I don't want to do that either. This other thing here. Lose. I never had to lose, but everybody told me to get one, and I always stuck to uh, Eagle Claw, Zebco, Quantum, stuff like that. I got a Fulcrum laying around here too, bath rod that's like for salmon, and then I have like a custom salmon one that was picked up from I don't know. This guy was producing them for a while, and I picked up a custom, and then I just have held on to that one for a while. But I hooked a yeah, I got a 10-pound fish on that one, and didn't have any problems. So I've just been holding on to it. Yeah, the lose is pretty good though. It's with the fishing buddies. When I went to the Cowlitz Luminaries, that's he had like one. I had a lose LEW rod, and he had tons. He had way more rods than I have, but I'm like, I only need two of those, one of those, one of those. That's enough till I wear them out, and then I set them on the set them on the shelf in the yard in the room. Hey, Sarah. Yeah, I'm trying to get the this dual thing going so I can see better what people are saying when I'm doing stuff because I can't really I can't really mod anybody really or anything or do anything like certain things I want to do because I don't have the space. So I was like, I can't really move over there, so I need to just set up this other thing. So I was kind of just sitting here trying to get it going before I start doing what I'm about to do here. Oh, and Luminaries, I had something to talk to you about that fly too, because I remember. Oh shit. Uh, oh, yeah, that didn't sound right for a minute. That didn't sound right for a second. Hold on, let's do this here. Let's see if this works. Oh, let's try it. Oh no, try this. A little better. Yeah, I'm trying to. There's like sound on this other thing too. So I'm like, this doesn't sound right. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, what? I was like, what? Hoshan. Well, I'm gonna do a streamer, and I was showing those hooks earlier, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do like this little two like quick streamers, but I'm just gonna do them like two different colors, and then show a couple other things, like just kind of like graze over them. So I got my calf's tail out. when I had to do some scrummaging through some things. I'm like, well, I gotta find this. And I got some. If anybody knows what that is a pheasant out, and then that's that golden pheasant, and it is pretty. Sometimes it's pretty expensive right now to get it, and I've had that same golden pheasant for a little while, and I just make tons of flies from that, and I still haven't gone through it yet. That's the second one I've had, and that's been years that I've actually gone through this, and I'm on to my second one. So I'm like picky and choosy and bounce around to what I tie in the first place. And mostly for me, it's always been for, oh, I need some, so I need to tie like 15 of those. Or I need to tie 10 of those because I know I'm going to lose at least 4 of those. And I'll have some left over and I have to tie no more. Okay, I need to tie another 15 or another 10. So when I tie them, I'm like, okay, if I tie this amount, then I'm like, oh, I just have these laying around. So some stuff I have just laying around, I'm like, when I'm ready, I'll tie more. Whatever that is, when I'm decided to go for whatever I'm going for. Yeah, it's like a yellow. And then at the very end, they always color it black. Maybe just because that's what the animal's fur is already kind of brown or something like that. You know, it's a calf's tail. So, but I like to get the big one versus they have a smaller. Sometimes the smaller ones are kind of nice too because sometimes the hair is like longer on it, but it's not it doesn't look like it holds the color the same as these kind. They hold the color different. Let me see if I can get this to fully act properly for me. There you go. I think I got you. Yeah, it's hard to do it with this one, and I'm trying to see if I can do it. Like, it's hard to. Uh, this phone is crazy that I'm on, and then that's why I opened up another. I've opened up another device just so I can. Yeah, it's hard to do it on this this phone for whatever reason. And this phone glitched out, and it just like froze everything, and it was like 7 days later, then it froze, then it jumped something else, and then it froze again, and then it went back into like a short, and I'm like, that short was what I did before, like a day before. I'm like, why is it on it? And then it jumped back. I was like, oh, something's going. And then I just said, I'm just gonna scrap the. That's why I scrapped that one fly tying when I tied this one. That's why I scrapped it because I was like, something weird's going on. And then it was recording after, and then I was like, and I'm like, why is it still recording? And I was like, I don't want to. I was like, I'm not even gonna deal with whatever weirdness it's doing. I'll just call that a loss and make something out of it. But yeah, that one last time, like with the thing, I remember. You might not remember me, but you probably do. Ran into too many people in my travels and experienced a lot of things. So I'm like, I don't trust folk. But yeah, that one I'll show you so you can see it. Luminaries, you can see that. You see it right there? That's basically that's a Zulu, the Zulu pattern. But we don't know who tied it. It has no name under nothing. It's just something that's been around and it's gotten all many names. It turned into Woolly Bugger and everybody has a different name for it. But that's what it is. And then there's just variations on the tail, the body, everything. There's just so many. Everybody just decided to make variations of that. And so I got this book. I had this book when I was a kid, and I was just like, Zulu. I was like, isn't that called this? Like I was like, it's a woolly worm, because that's what I knew it as. And they're like, no, it's called like 4 different. So that fly, one of those flies, is kind of like, it's kind of flown through the test of time, basically that type of fly. And there's a couple other ones, and it seemed like they just, and only a few of them they're like, no, that's the originator. And a lot of them, the originators have been lost, but there's some books, but a lot of the books have been lost. But the fly pattern hasn't, because it's sitting on someone's wall somewhere in their garage. And they just don't, you don't know. Sometimes people know the name of it, but they don't know who created it. So there's a lot of flies like that. That's kind of what happened to me. Like I was explaining it. I was like, I tied a fly, I showed it, and someone was like, what is that? And I was like, oh. And they're like, oh, can I see that? And they're like, boom, that fly ended up in a book. And I was like, that's my fly. And the person's like, can you created it? And I was like, I don't care. I was like, whatever. I was like, but then I saw people like catching fish with it, and I was like, this is cool. I was like, but that's kind of like something I created. And then after that, I said, that's just kind of fly tying, how it goes. Some things get lost to the human condition and stuff. But it was still kind of nice to be like, hey, that person's like, these people are like fishing that now. And I'm like, hey, that's kind of like my thing. I still got one laying around here somewhere. I have to dig it out. But I'm gonna get into it eventually too. And I don't know if you've seen these. You know what those are. And I used to make a lot of these, but I haven't been making them. But I don't know if you know what those are. I'm actually gonna have to. I actually kind of have to buy the piece that holds them, because I used to tie them by hand. And it's not gonna. I can't put it on live or video it with my hands like that. It's gonna be too hard. So if you look at it, if you know what that is, so like the tube flies. So making the tube flies for like trolling behind the boat, spay tube flies for like steelhead and stuff. That's what that is. But there's a special holder that holds them, and I don't have it. And I used to just tie them with my hand. And it's now I'm like, it's just too difficult to tie them with my hand. And then I burned the thing, and I curve them like they're the herring, like a like the cut bait herring, and the fly moves like the herring. It rolls, and you put it behind the boat. Yeah. So and you got to like, use a lighter and everything, and that's why that one's a little burnt there. And you got to make it so it'll stay. And then if you see, the more flared out it gets, the more it kind of wobbles and stuff. So there's like little cool things you can do with them. But I stopped tying these ones, because I was just like, this is just. I was like, I need to find the little piece to add to the vise for it, and I didn't even know they had one, because I used to do it all by my hand. I would hold it in my hand and wrap all the thread and tie all the feathers down and make the tube fly. And people were like, "You're doing it that way?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "No, like they're making it easier. They're like, you're making yourself sweat doing all that. You could just buy this thing they have now." I'm like, "Oh, they didn't have that when I started tying." Yeah, I've never used it. It's like a pin that goes through it, and then it like holds it all up on the vise, and then you tie it on there. And I was like, that would have helped a lot. I was just holding it, and then like just working my hand down and then flipping the fly over and stuff in my hand, and just literally just going like that and wrapping it. I think I only have like one fly left from when I used to fish that have those things. Oh no, I don't. Actually, you know what? I do. I have like the simplest one laying. Yes, I do. Here's one. Let me go walk over it. Yep, there's one right here. So it's like more like what do you call those? Sand, like a sand lance. They burrow in the sand. Yeah, so it's like narrow, and then you use the Marlark, and see it's got a curve to it. And this has just got like a thin coat of like a lacquer over it. And then I just used like a black marker on the back, and that's like the simplest simple way to make it. So it's kind of more like looks like a sand lance, because it's so thin, so slim looking. But you control that behind something or a flasher and see if you catch something. Let's see here if I can get this to work. I think it's working now. I can see all the Sarah's like, I know Jack from another channel. Checking him out. Yeah, we sit around there and chat about all kinds of things, building things, all kinds of things over there. Stuff that happen in relationships, everything, all kind of random things. Just hang out and chill. All right, so I'm gonna start on this here. Grab this out of here. Yeah, we'll talk about just all kinds of different things over there. Let me pull one of these feathers out. These feathers, though, this particular bird is just like, oh my gosh, it's this that golden pheasant. And, I mean, I think it comes from like the jungle. I think they call it like a. I don't want to say the other word of what it's called, but it's called a jungle 4-letter word with it starts with the C and ends with you get it. But yeah, there's something about that bird. Like I think even people used to eat those things over there. They might still, but it's basically like a pheasant, but it looks like a chicken that's like got long leg, like taller long legs, and it's got these crazy colors. And I guess they sound horrible. The sound. I think I remember someone talking about they sound horrible. You don't want to raise one of those. I was like, I want one, and they're like, no, you don't. They're like, you don't want that bird. Like they look beautiful, but they sound horrible because they come from like the jungle or something. Oh, Gemini, you stopping in? What's up, man? Yeah, we're just going over some stuff and chatting a little bit. I was trying to get the screen going because it makes it easier so I can see who's dropping in the chat because it's hard to see it on this phone because the way the mount holds this phone, it's like, man, I can't see the name anybody's name popping up in there. I can't see the screen names popping in there. It's like by the time I get to it, it's like it's going by there, and they're like, I'm live in the chat. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm gonna make a streamer. It looks like I'm gonna make 2 of them, and I'm gonna make them 2 different colors, basically 2 different styles, but they're the same fly. They're just like a little different tones of color to them. Pretty standard ones. So let's see if I can move this in. So it's hard because this is a smaller hook. I might have to. I'm gonna start. I might loosen this and adjust this eventually. Because this is a smaller fly, so it's not gonna. Once I'm done with it. And these will be like, now this is the trout fly. Like this is on a trout hook. You know, panfish only. If you land a steelhead with that, I owe you some money or something. It can happen because I've landed fish on a wire hook like that. I've landed some really big bass on a little wire hook like that I thought would bend, and it didn't. And I was like, wow, I just caught like a 4-pound smallmouth, a 5-pound smallmouth with that little wiry hook. It looked like it's gonna bend out. Yeah, those those little they do you know why they turn down the hooks like that, right? There's a reason why they turn the hooks down, and then they have the straight hooks. There's a reason for it, and it's something to do with the action of the of whatever you put on there, even if it's live bait. That's why they turn the hook down. So when your line picks it, it kind of it snatches the hook. So even when if you're just fishing live bait on a hook like that, that's kind of why that that they had that's why they basically have all the different hooks straight, turned up. That's why they are like that. And some people just go, "Oh, that's the kind I need because that's the style it's tied on," but they don't know why it's what that's supposed to do. And that's what it is. So like the salmon one, that's why it's turned up for a different reason. That's supposed to come across, and it's turned up like that. And these are, this is what they tie the Atlantic salmon flies on, but there's a reason why they turn them up like that. It has to do with the action, because you could do the same thing with a hook like that that's just thicker, and it'll work still too. You can get those. It's just your kind of a preference, but there's like a little bit different action. It's a little something different when you pull the line, especially if it's on a fly rod. Especially, it's like a little something different about it, and it's so minuscule thing, but it can kind of matter, but not really. Sometimes like it just means maybe you might catch more fish. It'll be a more different action to whatever you're fishing at the time. But I usually I like a lot of the downturn ones. I only use the upturns because it's always salmon fishing or something when I use the upturn ones, and sometimes I don't like them for them. I've had them throw those for some reason, and I'd rather have a hook that's shaped differently. I've had them throw those really easy sometimes. I'm like, why are they throwing all the hooks? But we're gonna get started. We're gonna put the pheasant, this golden pheasant tail in here. And Gemini was telling me, what was he telling me? He's like, put them coffee grounds. I'm like, yeah, man. For the worms, like, no, it just doesn't work for me. I've tried it. It's just I just do it that way. It's just simple. No fuss, no muss. It reminds me like that movie, River Runs Through It, and then he's like, I guarantee he's bringing those coffee can of worms from such and such, and they're all trying to fly fish, and he's like, I've been fishing before, and then they're like, I think he's like, I told you, and he brings the coffee can of worms. One of my favorite movies, actually. When I first saw the movie, I was like, oh, they're fly fishing. I was like, yes. So there's the tail of the golden pheasant. Went in really easy, but you gotta be careful when you do it. Because if you look at that piece, that's one whole feather. I just used the tail end of that feather of one that I had already done before, used all of it up. So it was literally just that part of the feather. So that's why it came out so good. You can kind of see, it's kind of blurry, but you can kind of see it went in perfectly. But it doesn't, it will not go in perfectly. If you want to save that feather, when you want to save that feather, it's not going to go in like that. Like you're going to have to pull that piece apart and keep all those black and that orange bars together. Cause see, look, it's trying to come apart. You got to try to keep that feather to stay together, like it would when it was on that bird, and then take it off this and tie it down, and that'll save you, so you can use every little bit of that golden pheasant, because that stuff isn't cheap. Just to get that small piece of it, just to get that small piece. And they have another one, I think it's like a crescent or something, and it's white and black like this. And a lot of that stuff, that they put a lot of that in those Atlantic salmon flies. And that's why Atlantic salmon flies are kind of crazy, because they I don't know what was going on over there. They had to been just walking around picking up whatever, and they've been like, let's just make something and it catches the Atlantic salmon or something. They had to have been just doing that, because a lot of those flies just have I'm like, there's like 10 materials to make up that one streamer. And then the few ones that don't have that, there's still like at least 4 to 5 things. So there's only a few that are plain. So I was like, they put a lot of stuff in there. They must have just been walking around grabbing anything and saying, it's on the riverbank, let's catch them. We're going to catch something. bumblebee fly. Then there's a lot of bumblebee type of patterns though. There's like trout bumblebee pattern, and then that people converted that over to a panfish pattern, and like I have one book too. Like I would just go through, and it's got a bunch of panfish patterns in it that I don't see anybody tying those anymore like that, and that from that book at all. But I just have it, and the color patterns in there are don't make any. They're just it's definitely a bass panfish book. The colors don't make no sense. Like the colors are just crazy. I'm like, what? I was like, that's what I need, and it'd be like bright red with yellow, and that's supposed to be the pattern, and it doesn't make sense at all to me. Every time I look at it, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But they're like, it catches fish, and there's a couple patterns in there. I was like, that doesn't make sense. I get it, but it doesn't make whatever. It's supposed to be a minnow, okay. I suppose like I could modify it to make it how I would want it to look, but those are like it's an older book. And I just had it, and I was like, well, there's some patterns in here, and it was like, this is a good pattern for this. And the only thing I really keep out of there that I use is a perch pattern. Like I actually like use that because it works good in the wintertime. And if you like when it's cold, and if you can get into a boat, you can put that same color on a jig or something in a boat and drop it down, or an ice fishing in it, and it catches everything. And it's got a weird color to it, and it just seems to work. But that bumblebee, that black and white color, or that black and yellow, it's like a pretty standard pattern. They have like the McGinty pattern, and it's calls for like this feather wing that goes on the top with like white on it, and then you don't really have to do that to make that pattern. You can just do the yellow and black on it, put a tail on it, and it's the same thing. It's just you're substituting stuff out, and that's what it is. Sometimes I just substitute stuff out because I'm like, it still looks like what it's supposed to. It's gonna do what it needs to do. But we're gonna put like 3 peacock quills in here, and this part is usually where failure happens. And I'm going to be honest about that. This is where failure usually happens with this, because there is 2 ways to make this fly, and you can do a lazy way and just wrap this around, make the butt end of it, and a lot of times that's what I just do. Flies usually hold up pretty good, but sometimes these quills will break, even though they'll break. Like, so you'll fish it and then they'll break. Most of the time they don't. They still will hold up. But sometimes if a little thing gets on it, it'll break. Sometimes you can put a wire on it, but sometimes you don't want to put all that on there. It's just, you start doing that a lot. You're like, man, I'm wasting a lot of. You want to stretch I try to stretch my materials to make them last, and that's why I still have like stuff from years ago. There's some stuff I still have from when I started. But this is how they train you to do it, is to wrap it around like this. So you're actually wrapping the thread around the peacock feather. You're actually supposed to wrap it around, but you don't have to. You're actually supposed to twist it around it like that. And if you look, it kind of makes it frill up. So that's how you're supposed to do it, but you don't even have to do it that way. If I had hackle pliers, I'd be really in business. I don't have hackle pliers, so I have to do it this way. And if you see, and then wrap it around. And it makes it kind of ball up and make a little spot on the body. And this is the trick to it. This is a little weird part about it is, so that's wrapped around the thread. the threads wrapped are actually within the peacock quill. So it's it's a really it's really tricky kind of to do it. As you can, it gets tricky because see, it tries to undo itself, but yeah, it's kind of a tricky thing because it wants to untie itself, and that's why I don't really like doing it that way. I do it this other way. I'll do it the other way on the front part of it so you can see the difference. But I don't have my hackle pliers. Like I said stuff. I don't have that. I just do it this way. So then that's the tail, and you can see that little green. If I can get it to focus, it's hard. I can't get it to. Yeah, it looks different on there than here. I don't know what it looks like over there on your guys' end. If you can see it, let me see if it'll. Oh, okay, yeah. And then the standard is just the red. So take red floss. Standard way to do it is just take red floss. Just some red floss. And then tie it in. So this is what I was saying. There's the other one is the same thing. And they're gonna build the body up right there. And you notice with this one, unlike that other fly, I'm not putting hardly any glue on this one. Like I'm confident it'll just hold up. Even if this fly started falling apart, I'd probably still fish it as it's falling apart. Those trout will still grab it because they might think it's something emerging from its shell from a nymph stage or something. So I don't worry about it as much. Where's this one? Yeah, I'm gonna have to use a new one for that one. And we'll just do two. Two probably make it work. Yeah, two. Yeah, there's like a bunch of those bumblebee patterns though. There's I have like this book. It has there's like over 1,000 of them, and I haven't even tied all 1,000 of these patterns in here. I just tied the things that I knew I needed for WA's local. I was like, oh, I know I just need these. There's a standard. That's all I need. Like I can catch anything with those. It's like, okay, those 4 things. That's all I need. Like that's like almost your tackle box. The other stuff is just like it's like specific situation, and just to keep a couple of them in your box. So it's like especially if you're fly fishing, you're like, oh, I just keep a couple of these in here, just in case like I happen to be in that situation and it's like it's like that. And I've only been in a handful of situations like that, and I'm now 41, and I fished and I was like, wow, all the mayflies are hatching all at once, like where it's like the air was clouded, you couldn't do anything. The fish are jumping everywhere. Anything would work then. You don't even it just needs to look kind of, and everything work. You just throw anything. Anything, worm, it doesn't matter. The fish are just feeding. And I've been in a couple situations where it was like that. I was like, oh, there's just so many flies in the air, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter what you throw, what lure, as long as it's sort of the size of that fly, the bug that's flying around, you're catching it. And it was every fish in that lake at the time. And that went on for like a couple days straight. So we're just putting red floss around this. And this is like the old wolf pattern. And you see these all the time in the store. But it's one of my favorite ones that I first started tying. And I just really, I don't know, I just like really like this fly because it just catches trout like when they're not biting the other fly stuff, tie fly, they will bite this sometimes. Or if you don't know that place that you're fishing, you just put this on and just, you might not catch a bunch of fish, but you'll still catch something. A lot of times you'll still catch one. So it just looks like something they want to eat. Even though it looks kind of fancy to me. Sometimes I'm like, it's kind of fancy looking. And we're going to dive right there. Okay. And then we're going to get these over here. But cool thing about this fly, just like, when I was tying that one, you can interchange that type of hackle on that. So it can be you can use a badger hackle if you want to. You don't have to have the standard what they originally, when it first created what to use on it. The brown hackle, you can change it. You don't have to use it, but we're gonna go with the original. And like there's the actual saddle similar. And so it's like if I use that saddle, it's gonna be thicker here when I put that feather on there, or I can make it more of like a dry fly kind of if I put this one on there. So it just depends on if you want it to sink more, you want it to look more pretty. Like this one to look more pretty because that's more of like the dry fly part of that hand's feather, and that's why I said it's great to buy that whole thing because you're like you can pick out all the different sections, and if you got a high quality one, that's why those flies look like that. And all the ones in the store, that's why they look all perfect. You're like, wow, that's like perfect because they're like using they usually use all the like highest quality on them most of the time, so that's why they look like that. And they like grab the specific feather from a specific area of specific areas of and that's why it looks like that. But we're gonna do, instead of doing that, because I already showed you kind of with that one, we'll just do something. We'll use the actual just regular saddle hackle, which would be like for a wet fly, which basically was what this is. And we're just gonna try to pick a good looking, we'll try to pick a good one out of here. You can look in the yard and they fell on the ground. And you just walked and you saw it and you picked it up. But they make really good like wet fly, or like on the streamers, or if you took a streamer and we wanted to troll it or do something, they just work better. They take the water better. And sometimes I don't even tie them in like the proper way they say to. So they'll say, when you got these, they'll say like, they show it and, like I showed you, tie it in this way. You can tie them in the opposite way, backwards, the long end isn't in. And it works the same when you make something like this. It works just as good. When they teach you, if someone teaches you, they'll be like, you gotta grab it there, and you don't have to do that with some of these patterns. Like you can do it the opposite direction, the opposite way, tie it in the other way, and it'll work just the same. It'll look a little different, but it works almost just the same. The fish don't quite notice that much of a difference of that at all. So this time, now we're gonna tie like another. I might as well just grab all of it. Let's see if we can what we got left and put it all together. See what we get. So now we're gonna tie these ones in. Some more peacock quill in. to it, but this time we're gonna do it a little different. This time, instead of wrapping around that line, the floss like that, the little thread, we're not even gonna do that. We're just gonna tie it in, and we're gonna wrap it itself. And you'll see the difference. It's gonna look a little different. So instead of doing that, and now I'm just gonna wrap it by hand like that. It's gonna look different. And this is why this is when they can kind of come apart and break when you do it this way. When they wrap on top of each other, on top of themselves like that. So you gotta another way that they'll wrap up and break. And really, sometimes when you do it this way, you should run a wire or a copper wire. You can run a copper wire through that to really make sure it stays down. Or you can put glue, but glue will kind of mess up that look to it. When you see it done, when I get it fully done, you'll know what I'm talking about. So it's kind of like you can kind of do this part two different ways. But when I used to first tie these, I would tie them all wrapped like that, and I never had a problem. I caught trout with them like that. Tied dry flies the same way, and never had a problem. And then I showed someone, and he was like, "You're not supposed to. You should tie it this way." But if you look, I can feel they're kind of moving a little bit, but it should be fine. Tied them pretty snug. Let's see. Yep, pretty good. So here. Oh man, back to okay. Okay. All right. All right. Funny. And then we're gonna tie that in. That's the brown hackle feather. Or saddle feather, actually. It's like a saddle hackle. And I try to leave a little gap there. So there's still hook that I haven't tied thread onto because I still want to leave a little bit for when I do get ready to tie this other part in. And that's what I was having a problem with that other one because I kind of made a decision just off the top of my head for that streamer that I made when I made this one. And that's why I was really going after that front section of that fly. That's why I was going after it so much. Like, I gotta try to make sure because that's a lot of material right there in one spot. Yeah, and then this is the calf tail. So this is the end. Look at the tail end of it. It turtles up. It's it's a calf's tail. If you look, and there's different lengths in there as you go down the tail, and it gets thicker, and it kind of has a different color as you get down to the root, and it's thicker. And you can make dry flies out of this too. You can make dry fly wings out of it, but you got to really. I make them too, but you can make it so that fly sits. What do they call it? Like a spinners or whatever, betas like spinners, and like it's kind of similar to that, but it's you can make it in like an attractor pattern out of this rug, like this coachman and this type of fly I'm making right now. But we're gonna make a streamer type kind of, so it's gonna have like a longer. It's gonna have like a longer minnow look to it. So this is what I was talking about. You can tie it this way versus tying it in the opposite direction. And you notice the feathers are long. It's longer. But it still does the same effect. It's just you're going longer feather end forward versus smaller feather end forward to bigger. But it works just as good. And for what I'm doing, it's perfectly fine. Because all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put that. I'll do one more maybe. Should I? Yeah, one more. I'm gonna put that calf tail on top of it. That's the thing. So when I lay that calf tail on top, you'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah, they used to say that's the Texas. They used to call that the Texas. You got to do a Texas two-step to get this to sit on there, right? The smaller the hook, the more weirder to me sometimes it is, depending on what you're tying to tie it down. And those little size 16s, that's gonna be fun to show. Like you see other people tying them, and it's like it's easy. I'm like, nah, man. You make it like it's like no. When you first start tying those, it's not like that at all. It sort of is if you kind of got a sense and coordination, or you've tied a couple things, even if it's, but it's not like how they. Oh, it's just it's like no. See, so now that's tied in. And you can see it's kind of poofing out. Hey, fat cat. Yeah, it's kind of poofing out. And that's different from when I tied this because I've tied it reverse. Or, it's like back to front, front to back. So instead of tying it in this way and going forward, tying it in on this end and going forward, you get a different effect. And if you can look at it closely, it's hard to see it, but you can see it's kind of goes small to big. It's hard to see it though, but it goes small to big. If you look at that, see it's higher here. We did it reverse on this one, so you get a different type of effect. Kind of, it's like more poofy. It's kind of a more poofy fly because we started from this end. We tied this end and then wrapped it versus tying that in and wrapped it. Even though this is the nicer part of the feather is right in here, but for a wet fly, sometimes it's kind of nice to do it this way. I found it's like kind of nice to do it this way, but you can do it the other way, and it looks more cleaner and nicer the other way. But sometimes it's kind of nice for a wet fly to do it this way because it becomes like it's like a real wet fly. It gets the water and it sinks, and it's just preference pretty much. But that's just what I've noticed. Sometimes I'm like I'll tie it this way, so I'll tie it the other way. Sometimes like no, I want that fly to look like this. So sometimes when I look at something in the store, I'm just kind of like, yeah. Like it was, what is that word they used to say? It's meant to catch fishermen, not fish, but it does. Flies do. It's meant to catch fishermen. Sir, you have patience. Oh my goodness. The troll can get balked. Oh my goodness. Let's see if I can get this hair. This is the tricky part on this. It makes it easier if I had hackle pliers, but I don't. So I have to do it with my hands. So I don't got no hackle pliers. So I literally have to hold this and do like a surgical grab. You can see I gotta do like a surgical grab to get the amount of hair out of here without losing it and keeping it even, so that I don't lose all that, because I don't have no hackle pliers. See, so that's the only thing that's good about having hackle pliers, because you could just pinch the end of this instead of having to use my hand. Pinch the end, it holds the end of it for me, and then I just clip. But no. But in the old day, they don't think they had no hackle pliers yet. So that's how you would have. You would need. You wouldn't. You probably just maybe had scissors or something, a knife. So and then I'm just gonna trim the end to get it kind of even. And Texas two-step it. And if you look, see the little hairs a little long. And that's what I was talking about, trying to get you got to really hold them to get the shape you want. I think that's going to be the best spot, like there. And what we're going to do is now we're going to lay the top wing in. And this is why this is like kind of tricky. Kind of tricky. A couple of wrap here so it won't slip. And there you go. And this one you really got to kind of pay attention to it, because as you're tying it down, because this will slip out of there. So see, it doesn't want to wrap quite right. It will slip out of there so easy, and then you lose that part on the top. And that's why it's like, it's about the amount of the hair you grab too. But there's different ways to do it. Everybody has like a way to do it. Taught to do this stuff, but sometimes after you tie a few, you're like, hey. Yeah, so I just kind of holding that there so I can put some thinner in there to get down in the hairs, because I want it to stay there. Which is the orange. Which is like an orange. It's a golden pheasant. I think it's like a jungle bird. I don't like the jungle. But the top, this is actually calf's tails. The cow. It's actually from the cow. Where's my other stuff here? Okay, yeah. I figured you're the only one who would say "bok." I was like, you're the only one who would say that like that. I appreciate you showing up. I appreciate you. I'm just letting it sit there because I just put this little glue in there, and I wanted to kind of get into that because to get into that hair, because this is one where you kind of that when you stack that hair on top like that, you want to put some glue in there because it's and let it seep into that because it will move after you've tied it the whole fly. It will actually move, and you can actually just twist it with your hand, and that fly will come apart in your hand. And I've had that happen. That's why I know. I went to the lake, and then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go sit over here. We'll sit down over here, and and I said, what? And then I had to turn it back with my hand, and it still fished it, and it caught fish. But I just like, I was like, oh, next time I should put like a dash of glue right there. But that fly was still good, and then I took it home. I hung it up, I let it dry, and then I put glue. I put a thinner on it, more thinner on it, and then it was good. I put like a different type of thinner on it to get into the threads, and then it was good. I was like, okay, now it's not moving. Okay. Yeah, so like there is some patience to it, a little bit, but some flies, like I can kind of rush on them and like go a little faster. I used to be able to tie one of those every 6 minutes, and I tested it. I could tie one every 6 minutes. So I would sit down and like, all right, I got this much time before work, and I would sit down and knock them out. I'm like, cool. And then every morning just do that. And then, okay, now I have enough flies for the weekend. But now I'm like, I was like, I should take my time, take more time on them, just especially trying to show people. So now that glue's kind of dry, and now we can. Gonna have to glue it one more time though. But yeah, that was the whole point of doing it that way is that calf tail is kind of serious when you're trying to tie that down. Flip it upside down so you can see. Because you kind of have to glue that. And because if you don't, as you see when I put that thread on, this will slip off. It still could, but I put glue on there, and that's why I waited a little bit for it to dry before I started wrapping just to make sure it's kind of solid. But that fly is done pretty much. And just do the half hitch. If I can get it. Look how it is to come in here. Here. Oh. Here. Hold on a second. Let's see if I can do it from here. It's not been working. It's been hard to do it from the phone. Let's see if I can do it. I gotta use two things to do this. There you go. There you go. I got you. And another half hitch. I was like, man, I should be playing music or something, but I don't know. I heard everybody having issues with, oh, I said something, copyright, all these different things. I'm like, you never know. I was like, maybe if I can find something that doesn't have any words, but I like the sound of it for some ambiance. Yeah, see, that's the issue I was hoping not to do right there. Oh, I got it. There it goes. Oh, let's try this again. Actually, we can just do it. We're going to do a true knot this time for the last one. That's another thing. You don't have to do a half hitch. You can do a true knot. Like you tie your shoes. You can actually do a true knot like you tie like your tennis shoes. So sometimes when I see all that fancy, I'm like, man, look at all these fancy. It's a something, whatever, knot over. I'm like, I just need a knot that's kind of strong when I'm tying the flies. And I do the same thing when I'm fishing. I'm like, I just need, okay, those are the only 3 knots I need. I don't need nothing else unless I'm doing some kind of crazy ocean fishing or something like big, crazy fish. I'm like, I just need these 3 knots. If I do that, then I've actually had to go like, oh, I need that knot because I'm going over here. And I know there's like these fish there. So I better like, okay, what knot is that again? Oh yeah. I forgot totally what that knot was. I had to go learn the knot all over again and then forgot it again. So see, I understand stuff like that. Forgot what that knot was again. And I was like, I don't, because you're not around. So you forget. You might forget. But there you go. Let's finish it off with the glue. Yeah, yeah, I know you do. I know you do. We know you do. This music out. Like you don't know this song. I was like, dang, she know that song. I was like, I thought she wouldn't know that one. I was like, I got to stump her with something. I was like, oh well, she got me kind of. There's a song. I was like, I don't know that one that well, but I was like, I heard it. I don't know the name of that. I was like, oh, that's what that song was. I was like, that's what that song was. I was like, okay, I've heard that song. But sometimes I heard a lot of songs though. I don't know the name of it. You listen, you hear the radio so much and then you don't hear them say it. Like some people who listen to radio, it's like you're like, I've heard it somewhere in a movie. I was like, and then you finally like, that's that song I've been in my head the whole time. There's a couple songs that there's a song I was trying to look for. I can't find. I can't remember. I just can't remember. I can't remember the artist, but like, it's in my head for some reason. And I was looking for it and looking for it, and it's like a dance song, and I just can't remember the artist for anything of me. And nobody plays that song hardly at all. They played it for a little bit 2 summers ago, and now they don't play that song. And it's like an older artist too. It's almost like their music got bitten, and then they made a new song from it. And I'm like, man, I don't know who the original artist is. Something else, but it's a dance song. But I just can't remember the artist's name, and I've been looking for it for a couple days now. I'm like, I can't find that song. Yeah, that's the thing. I bet you could if I could get all the tones right for you. You probably would know. Let's see here. But yeah, it's basically a Royal Coachman, and it can be made different ways. So like, let me see, because that's why I brought my book out. I had to dig. I was like, let me find this book. It's so let's see if I can put it for me. So this is like a book from years and years ago. This book's like probably 20 years old. But there you go. See, so that's a Royal Coachman, but they use a duck quill wing. There's a Coachman, and you see that's basically what I tied. If you look at it, when I take the book away, that's basically what I tied. But we tied a streamer instead. Basically what I tied, but we tied a streamer instead. And let's see if you can get so you can see it. So that's a streamer instead with a calf tail. So that's supposed to be like a little fish. And when it moves to the water, just kind of just do little short jerks of fly rod, the twitches of the line when you're pulling it in. And I've actually fished this on the Cedar River in Renton before and caught some pretty nice rainbow trout with this. style, and there's steelhead in there, but we're not allowed to bother those in there. But back in the day, you used to see people walking down the road out of that place with steelhead, and they guys would be going to Boeing, and they'd stop in at their lunch. They'd catch a steelhead, and you'd see them walking down the road 7 in the morning with a big old steelhead in their hand, and it was normal. That was a normal thing. And now, like they don't fish for them out of there anymore. So that's the Royal Coach. Like it's like a Royal Coach streamer. Basically, it's like a Royal Coachman streamer. Technically, it's called like the Royal Wolf. It'd be like a Royal Wolf streamer. And but the ones I showed you, showed you guys, was a wet fly. Oh, here you go. Actually, here. Someone see. So there's another version right there. It says Western Coachman. So it's like the same thing, but yet it's not. That one's made from bucktail on the top. So there's like variations people have made of the same thing, but to me, this is like more of the original, very like way of it should be to me. Something like this. And then the other version is like the winged version, like if it was a bug. And those are like the two ways. And then after that, all these other things started patterns and variations coming in. So sometimes, I get it though. If you're in an area and you can't get that fur, you need to, or that type of feather or something, you need to substitute it with something. So you find something similar. So you need, you don't have white calf's tail, you can use a white bucktail instead. Like I don't have the type of floss or floss for the back of this. It's usually you can use floss itself. I've actually used this type of floss for the tails, but then the tail would be smaller. Instead, I just said I'll use glow bug. I'll use the glow bug yarn, and it gives it a poofy tail to it. And then I've done a lot of stuff like that. Just like substitute it. It's still the same fly. It's just it's got a different profile. But yeah, that's like a little small, cool little streamer. Pheasant tail, golden pheasant tail, peacock, red floss in the center, brown hackle in the front. And that's a cool little streamer to use. Pretty much catches gets panfish, everything with that. I'll set it up here, let it dry. It's different than doing the salmon ones, but I was gonna I could tie that same on here, same fly on here, and now it's a salmon fly. It's a steelhead fly, so it's a bigger, stronger hook. Now it's a steelhead fly instead of a trout fly. That one would be a trout fly, same pattern, but now it's a different hook with that tail, with that top part on it. Now it's a salmon. Now it's a steelhead salmon fly, and I'm 100% sure it'll catch steelhead. 100% sure, because steelhead has that color scheme to it. All right, so we want to tie one more. Let's see, on the same size hook too. It's going good so far. Yeah, we're gonna try a different one, but instead of using this type of calf tail, I'm trying to find is this one laying out? Instead of using that color, we're gonna do a different one. Now we're gonna do the other color. It's the same fly, but we're just gonna do a different color scheme. Instead of white on top, we're yellow on top. So it's the same fly. It's just gonna have a different, a different profile, because now it's got a different color. But you can interchange that too. So like you could have the white on top. You have that white color on top, and then have the yellow in the center, or you can have the red in the center, and then yellow on top. And I do the same thing with there's a couple of dry flies I make. I do the same thing. And I used to tie them like that, and they didn't sell them like that. And then next thing you know, literally like 4 years later, they started selling them with the different colors in them. And I just kind of laughed about it. I was like, oh, now you guys sell them like that. It's like we've been making them all them different color combinations forever on our own. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to do this. So I'm gonna tie one more here, and I'm probably gonna be done for tonight. So pluck that piece off of there, and that's what I was talking about earlier. It's kind of a challenge. To get that to sit just like that, so that those bars of that feather stay together. And you can hear the puppy. She's going crazy. She's like, I'm over here. She wants everybody to know she's there. Yeah, so that's what makes it kind of difficult when you pull those off of there. You can see that one's trying to see, it's trying to like kind of like come loose. That's what makes tying when you pull them off of there like that kind of a challenge a little bit. If you want them to look pretty, you want them to look pretty. Let's see here. So let me tie this other one in this other color real quick. The simpler way, like I showed you guys. Just wrap it like it's good. One more. To tie this one up. That would be it, I think. For this live, I think. Okay, tying the quill. Tying the quill. And start wrap it around. So you'll see the difference too as I'm wrapping this around compared to that other one. It just doesn't look the same. When you wrap it like this, it does, but it doesn't. Sometimes it looks better, sometimes it does not. And yeah, and there you go. It's so that end piece. When I show it up close, you'll see that it looks different when you wrap it with your hand. When you wrap it with your hand versus twisting it around the line, the thread, so it looks a little different. Got a different look to it, and because it's wrapped like that, it can get it's easier for it to get damaged and come loose when a fish grab it or gets nicked by something sharp. So. And we're going to, yeah. So we're gonna do yellow. So this time, you see, this one's gonna be yellow. It is kind of like a bumblebee. It is kind of like a bumblebee. And just going to floss around. See, it's trying to come loose a little bit. That's what I was saying. Sometimes you can put a copper wire into tie and over this floss, and it's kind of nice sometimes because it tries to kind of get wild on you. All right. Gonna knock this one out pretty quick here. I think here. So everybody can go about their Friday now. It's wrapped it. Busy. Busy time. We got home activities going on here. Home activities. Stuff going on. Health. Family stuff. Health issues. Everybody's got them. You must try to keep healthy and go about our lives and live and happy. Or at least that's the goal. All right, I'm gonna put the P-cut camera in. Go to those again. It's on repeat. We're gonna do it. You do it again. And I'll show something else because I got a couple laying down here. So this is like a little cool little thing here. For some other pattern, you see that quill? Take your fingers. You take your nail. You go like that. Cross that. Okay. If you look, what's happening? That quill is that hair, that color off that quill is coming off. That feather that's on that peacock feather is coming off. And now that piece in between, you can use that to make nymph patterns and stuff for catching trout and stuff. And I make mosquito patterns too, but I haven't used them here much to catch many fish, but I make a mosquito pattern that looks like what a mosquito would look like. And you kind of have to do something similar. You have to work with the quill like that, kind of similar. But you don't have to do that quite to it, but you got to do something kind of similar. Wrap this around. Texas two-step, basically, you would call it. Doo-doo-doo. Tie that in. Okay. Tie another one of those hackles in. But now we got one that's yellow. The yellow body to it. Wrap it around. Round it goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. I'm not gonna have to worry about this one as much. The same. We're gonna tie that down. Boom. Okay. She's gonna say something. Oh boy, she's gonna say something. Oh boy. No more no whammies. No whammies. Like I know it's gonna be. You're gonna say you got something. I know you got something. I'm like, oh, I know she's gonna say something. I'm either gonna be surprised, or I'm laughing, or I'm gonna be like, oh, okay. I'll be like, oh no, run. Some put some glue on this one too, because I can see these feathers kind of gonna act up right there. Yeah, just a little thinner actually, thinner. It's like a thinner glue to get into the feathers and stuff. Hey, Candy. Yep, just time. Almost done. You already missed the other one. We're on the last part. You're done here in a minute. Yeah, we're gonna pick out this part. Yeah, I wish I had hackle pliers. I'm gonna have to get some again. Mine disappeared. Seems to happen to me. You know, like things just seem to disappear. I'm like, why is these things disappearing all the time? There goes your calf tail, and we got yellow calf tail here. We got family activities going on. The mother of the home just Just doing things over here while I'm time flies, so y'all can all see. She's over here working on something. She's doing her own little project. Oh, yeah, this is the part. So just like last time, it was a little bit tricky to get that. Just trim it like just right. A little bit tricky. A little bit tricky to get this thing on there. Okay, I think we got it. We have success with tying this down. Oh no. And that's what I was talking about. You kind of have to really, yeah, because it wants to, yeah, it wants to move around, but you want all that to fit like how you grabbed it, and it can be kind of a challenge to get that hair. And then you end up trimming it again because you can't quite get it to, they're uneven. Let's try it again. There we go. Now it's on there. This is the thing about the calf tail here. It's like a challenge about this. And as I'm tying it, it's trying to slip down. Gotta get it kind of snug. And some of it's trying to come out. Tying here. Recording in progress. Recording in progress. Y'all hear that? She ignored me. I was like, recording in progress. Doing stuff over here. We're trying to tie a royal wolf stringer. And that's why I tie sometimes at night, and that's why I'm always up. Because I can't get quiet. I like it to be quiet. That's kind of why I like it quiet. So y'all can hear what I'm saying. And there's no interruption to what I'm doing when I'm tying something. Other things that I do, I don't worry about that sound as much. But when I'm tying something, so it's kind of like I need to be able to talk to you guys and like show you like what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, why am I doing it for. Let's tie this down. Yes, I know the background. That's why I said recording in progress. Like I said, I'm not the only person that lives here. The dog lives here. Family lives here. Used to be a cat lived. 2 cats live here. A family is kind of a family zone. There's some things. I talked to you about it. I talked to you about it. I'll probably talk to you later about it too. If you know, you know. You know. Yeah, you know. The crazy things that happen to me. Doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look too bad. This one's a little not as good as the other one. But maybe I'm wrong. We'll put them back in side by side and we'll figure out which one looks better. But that's what happens. Helping all the time. All right, we're gonna have to let it sit for a second here. Let that get into the thread for a minute. I'll grab this stuff. It's on the floor. Come on, glue. All right. And same thing, kind of like before. We're gonna turn it over and see if it's all good. It looks all good. Just make sure I like got thread evenly through the whole dang thing. It's not too many spots left. Funny things, the ones in the store sometimes when you buy the kits, none of those flies look like that. None of them look. You'll see like pieces of the feather sticking out, but they catch fish. But so it doesn't always have to be perfect. It just needs to be good and solid. Like, and there we go. Didn't have to tied enough half hitch on there. It just snapped, cut itself off, and tied down itself. Oops, bumped it. Sorry, guys. It looked like you just went through an earthquake. All right, so that fly is pretty much done. I'm literally just waiting for that thinner to get into the thread a little bit so I can put the last glue down on it and it'll be a finished product. But yeah, there's the hook. These are the salmon hooks. Steelhead hooks. That's a size 6. I think this is like a 3/0 or 2/0. So this is a big. That's for flies. That's a big difference. But that would be what I would tie one of them Atlantic salmon flies on, so you can really see it. If I do one, eventually I'm gonna tie one up, a couple of them, and maybe some like real true steelhead and some oddball salmon ones that are most people don't use. They're kind of like local type stuff, local anglers type stuff. You'll be like, oh, there's like some of these have like a lot of different stuff for them, and some of them they'll be very still. Like you're like, there's only it's simple, and like yeah. So a lot of those patterns, some of those ones I've avoided too. The ones with lots of stuff. Sometimes I was like, tie all that stuff and the same fly or lure, like it works in the same area in the same place, or it's similar and people use it, or like I don't need to have those. Like, I don't need to have those, but sometimes it's kind of cool to keep them because you never know, or you might, what situation you end up. You might just be like, let me just try that, and then I'm not catching anything, or man, let's just experiment, and it might be the thing that's that day's what they want. All right, let's see here if I can do this. And that's just clear coat fingernail polish, basically clear coat fingernail polish, or base coat, top coat, and it's just to glue it, seal it all down. And then let's see, we use this. Oh no, we use this one here. Yeah, there's a couple other patterns that have like. There's a couple of other patterns I used to tie like one time as much because I'm like I don't need them. And then I was talking to someone else. I was talking to he's a YouTuber. I ran into him one time years ago, and then we were just we were talking this morning, and he was like, "I'm going ice fishing or whatever," and I was like, "I'll mail you some of these, if you want them." And he was like, "Yes, please," because he was saying like he doesn't want to have to wherever he gets his from, he or whatever they come from, he has to go travel or something to get them. So I was like, "Well, I could just make you a bunch, and then I'll just send them. And if you catch something, you can like." He tied me those, and he sent me them. And I know they're getting snow and ice up there, so he was like, "I'll show him," and I'm like, "Yeah, I can tie something like that. I already have like a couple patterns already like that." I was like, "I probably could just go learn one really quick that's will work." But I already know a couple that could be useful for him. But yeah, there's the so then you got the two different colors. Got your yellow, so same pattern, different color scheme. You got a yellow, but then the underbody is yellow floss. And then you got white and red, which you could even put white floss under there. But this is like more of the standard of this pattern. But as you can see, you can do it other ways, different colors. This could even be orange. This top part could be orange. That center could be orange. So you can play around with those two colors in contrast. So that could be white and yellow, or white and orange, or vice versa. But that's a good fly. You can use that, and you could probably you could if I was doing a jig it or something just in the like ice fishing or something, I'd probably make this shorter. This would be shorter. I'd probably shorten it up so so it'd be more like that, like a shorter looking little fly to me. I would shorten it up, or hook size would be a little different. But you could tie like something similar like that, and but put it on a jig for that type of thing, and yeah, trout will grab that. All kinds of types of fish will grab that. They yeah, on a jig head, you could tie this. It's kind of something similar to this, like a powder scheme, like a color scheme to it, and some of the same materials, and especially for freshwater, and you'll do pretty well. There you go. Basically, Royal Coachman, Royal Wolf type, Royal Wolf streamers, basically from Calftail, versus having wings on it. Those are the wings, the streamer. So that's it. Anybody got questions? Luminaries, what do you think? Patrols can get balked. Any questions? If you're still in here. Yeah, they came out pretty good. Right? That's literally, that's a trout streamer right there, like a classic trout streamer, just in two different tones of color, and you can change that colors, those three little things on it, and it's still got the same effect. It's just a different color, like a little different look to it. You can even do purple. I think yeah, you can get purple floss too, and do purple in the center too. And instead of yellow, you could do purple. Look at it, especially if the fish is looking at it from the bottom, underneath, looking up at it. If there's purple in there, that's probably got like a cool effect too. Yeah, I think they would. If I was a trout, but I'm not a fish, but I think they would. Yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna tie these wet flies real quick because I tied the woolly worm style I was like, I'm gonna tie these two wet flies because there's a little bit more to these ones, and to getting the that this hair in there without it messing up on you and gluing it down good. There's a whole little process kind of trick to it, and then if you do it a while, you look, they're almost uniformly looking the same look, and that's what I was talking about on that other live. It's like, yeah, those guys from that guy from Africa, and most people, that's what they taught them, like, make them like this because they were like, we're gonna mass produce them, and that's what it is. So that's why you see a lot of guys that they tie their stuff, it looks, can be like, they want to make it look exactly like the book, but sometimes it doesn't have to be. It can be a little bit for your own personal use. It can look a little off. It doesn't have to be quite, as long as the hook eye is clear, it looks like what it's supposed to look like, it's gonna fish. And sometimes it's better if it doesn't look. I fished them and they didn't look right. I was like, this doesn't look, and then it caught more fish than the one that looked perfectly nice. It just, because I guess it looked more like something that was in that lake at the time, and it just fished better. It's kind of, fishing is kind of funny like that. Like, I used to take I made a fly that's kind of similar to this, about this size, but it literally was two wings instead of the feather streamer like this, or this hair. It was just two wings, and a body like a body tied like that in the center. No peacock on it, and then no tail. And I would catch fish with that, and I would take a split shot and throw it out, and I would catch a fish. And then sometimes I would put a little piece of worm on it, and I would just throw it out and still fish that, and I would just let it fall, and then I would go sit down. By the time I sit down, a fish would grab it, and I would just pull out tons of bluegills and fish about that long, about the size of my hand. I'll just, one after another. Person came up, he said, what are you fishing? I was like, just a little fly. And I'm like, what is that? I was like, just two wings and a little bit of a body, and that's it. I didn't put nothing else on it. Just two wings and a body on it. Nothing else. And then he was like, that's it. And I'm like, yeah. And then sometimes I put a piece of worm on it. That was it. And for some reason, I think that lake or something, I think it's also like when I was talking about the hatch. I think there was a hatch or something that went on. So some other stuff you use, like the regular lures, kind of like in that area, the fish were ignoring. So the guy's like, I have this bait thing on here, and I'm like, just put a worm on there. I was like, they're biting that, and then he's like, okay. And he's like, but you just keep getting them. I said, I think they want the fly, something that has a fly look to it or something, and I think that's what it was. There was like a big hatch days before, and that's what it was. So so just having a fly in your hook, any kind of fly, it didn't matter almost. Like it just needed to look buggy looking or something like this. Even this, you could have just put that on there and just tipped it with a little piece of worm or something and just threw it out with one split shot, and just left it. And a trout or a bass would pick it up just immediately because they were just gorging themselves. So as long as it looked like a bug of some kind and smelled like something, they would grab it. And the guy's like, I can't. He's like, what is going on here? And I said, yeah, they're not big ones. They weren't big. But there was just so many fish in that area because they were gorging themselves. We were literally just weeding through these fish because there were so many like hand-sized, palm-sized bass and trout, and as soon as that was over, there was almost no fish there. Almost no fish there. It was just like, it's like a phenomenal thing. I was like, now there's like no fish here. Just because that hatch happened on that specific spot on that lake in Washington, just that little pocketed area of that lake, that hatch just exploded there. And that happens, and it happens sometimes this time of year. If it stays like this and it kind of gets cold again, and then we get the day where it gets it's warm and it stays warm like that, it kind of gets up to 50s and it stays. Sometimes the hatch will happen, and that's that winter hatch. And I've seen some really crazy, cool stuff in a winter hatch because them fish you think are deep will come shallow, and it's cold, and you're like, why is there trout here? Like, it's like it seems like it's a fluke or something. And I've seen Dolly Varden in Lake Washington because of a hatch like that in the middle of the night and nighttime. just a school of Dolly Varden come in, feeding on the small little fly, little bug, and just go crazy. And they're just in a foot of water, and it's freezing outside. And I'm like, why are there trout here? But they're Dolly Vardens, so they're bull trout. So it's a little bit different thing. We don't, they're protected here and stuff now. But I thought that was the coolest thing. I said, there's like 7 Dolly Vardens just swimming around in this spot. And I ran home because I lived by the lake at the time. And I ran up the hill. And I was like, I bet you by the time I walk down this hill, it's going to take me another 15 minutes to get back down this hill to the water. And I went back and the fish were all gone. But it was at night. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And this place has lighting, so you could see those fish in the light. You could see them swimming around. It was the coolest thing. But when I went back and I came back, I said, man. I threw out a couple times. I'm like, man, where'd these fish go? I was looking, like walking up and down the bank. I was like, man, they're gone. I was like, I wish I would have had my fishing pole, but I didn't. I just went for a walk that night, and it's like a cold evening. I was like, man, it's wintertime. Ain't no fish gonna be over here. And then, sure enough, there's fish underneath the lights feeding on bugs and stuff, and it's wintertime. Kind of like a fluke thing because there was a hatch there at that particular spot too, and bugs were flying around. It got just warm enough, but it was winter, and just warm enough, and then it got cold like 2 days later. Them fish vanished. Like, it was like they're there and then they're vanished. And that was the big lake. That was Lake Washington, actually, the big lake. So that happened on. So that's why it was more surprising, because usually I always fish deep in a boat or something when it's this time of year there, or it's kind of like a search and destroy type of mission to find where the fish are at, kind of. But yeah, that's it. I hope you guys liked the live, whoever's in here. See, there's 2, what I'm seeing. Hope you liked it. Hope you learned something. I'm a plethora of fishing knowledge, of random fishing knowledge, a jack of all trades, of all kinds of different knowledge. All right. Well, I'm out of here. Hope you guys liked it. You're welcome, luminaries. Catch you guys later.